In this lesson, we're going to solve quadratic equations by completing the square. The first step is to move the constant to the other side of the equation. So we'll have x squared minus 4x, leave a space, equals 12. The reason we're leaving a space is because we're going to have to create a perfect square trinomial on the left side of the equation. And the way to do that is to take your middle term, your 4, and we're going to take that 4, divide it by 2, and then square it. 4 divided by 2 is 2, and then we'll have 2 squared. Add that to both sides of the equation. X squared minus 4x. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 squared is 4, equals 12 plus 4. Now factoring the trinomial on the left, it's now a perfect square. So it factors to x minus 2 squared equals 16. Use the square root property and take the square root of both sides of the equation. X minus 2 equals plus or minus the square root of 16. X minus 2 equals plus or minus the square root of 16 is 4. Now since 4 is a rational number, let's split this into 2 separate equations and solve for x. Here we add 2 to both sides. X will equal 6. Add 2 to both sides of the equation. X equals negative 2. So the two solutions are 6, negative 2. Now the next example with completing the square is when the lead coefficient is not a 1. And what you're going to have to do here is divide every term by 2, because in order to complete the square, the lead coefficient must be a 1. So now the quadratic is x squared plus 5x plus 7 halves equal 0. Again, move your constant to the other side of the equation, and we're going to leave a space because we're going to have to add a number to complete the square. That number, again, take the 5, divide it by 2, square it. And this is what is added to both sides of the equation. Factoring this trinomial on the left, you don't even need to multiply out the 5 halves squared, because factoring it will be x plus just the b over 2, which is 5 halves. Then we have negative 7 halves plus 25 fourths. X plus 5 halves squared. Now we need to get a common denominator. We'll have negative 14 over 4 plus 25 over 4. We still have x plus 5 halves squared. Now negative 14 fourths plus 25 fourths is 11 fourths. Now we're ready to take the square root of both sides of the equation. So we have x plus 5 halves equals plus and minus the square root of 11 fourths. Now simplifying this radical, x plus 5 halves will equal plus or minus the square root of 11, but the square root of 4 is 2. Solving for x, we need to move the 5 halves over, so x will equal negative 5 halves plus or minus the square root of 11 over 2. Now the way to write your solution set is to write this all over one denominator, and we'll split up the positive and the negative. So we'll have negative 5 minus the square root of 11 over 2, and then negative 5 plus the square root of 11 all over 2.